Welcome to English in Fluency. I am Alex, and I am so happy you are here with me today. We have a very special lesson planned for you, a deep dive into something that every single English learner faces at some point. I want you to imagine that you are having a conversation with someone, maybe a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, and everything is going well. You are understanding most of what they are saying. You are nodding, you are smiling, and then, suddenly, it happens. They say a word, or a phrase, or maybe they just mumble a little bit, and you have absolutely no idea what it meant. In that split second, what happens to your brain? Do you stay calm? Do you keep listening? Or do you start to panic? I know what usually happens because I have seen it thousands of times. You freeze. You start thinking, oh no, I missed it. I missed that word. I don't understand. And while your brain is busy worrying about that one thing you missed, the person keeps talking. They keep telling the story. They keep giving the information. And you miss the next 10 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe even a minute, just because you got stuck on one little bump in the road. Today, we are going to change that. We are going to learn how to recover when you miss something so that you can keep listening without panic. This is going to be a long, detailed practice session because I want you to really master this skill. We are going to listen to stories. We are going to break them down. And we are going to train your brain to let go of the mistakes and keep moving forward. Let's begin by talking about why we panic. It is completely natural. When we are learning a new language, we often feel like we need to understand every single word to be able to understand the sentence. It feels like if we miss one piece of the puzzle, the whole picture is ruined. But think about your own native language. If you are speaking with a friend and a loud car drives by, or if someone coughs and you miss a word, do you stop them and say, I am panicking because I didn't hear that word? No, of course not. Your brain automatically fills in the gap. You use the context, the situation, and the words you did hear to guess what you missed. We need to teach your brain to do the same thing in English. We are going to practice this with a story about two people, Mark and Julia. Mark is learning English, and he is visiting a new city. Julia is his friend who lives there. They are at a busy train station, and there is a lot of noise. I am going to tell you this story, and I want you to listen closely. But remember, our goal today is not just to understand the story, but to practice what to do when you get lost. So, picture the scene. Mark and Julia are standing on a crowded platform. There are trains arriving and departing. People are rushing everywhere. And there is a loud announcement over the speaker system. Julia is trying to tell Mark which train they need to take. She is speaking at a normal speed, maybe a little bit fast, because she is excited. She says, "Okay, Mark, so we need to catch the 10:15 train that stops at all the stations. But we have to be careful, because there is a rail replacement. So we are getting off at Westbridge and taking a bus the rest of the way." Now, imagine you are Mark. You hear 10:15 train, that is good. You hear stops at all stations. Okay, that makes sense. But then a train whistle blows very loudly, and you miss the part about rail replacement. You just hear Westbridge and bus. Your brain immediately stops. What is a rail replacement? Why did she say that? Is it important? Do I need to buy a different ticket? You start to panic. And while you are worrying about rail replacement, you miss the fact that Julia then says, "Make sure you bring your ticket Because the inspector is on the bus, not the train. Now, later, when the inspector comes, Mark is going to be in trouble because he didn't hear that instruction, all because he got stuck on rail replacement. This is the perfect example of the panic trap. If Mark had stayed calm, he could have thought, okay, I didn't hear that one phrase, but I heard we get off at Westbridge and take a bus. That is the most important information. I can figure out the rest later. Let's listen to that interaction again. But this time, I want you to focus on how we can skip over the confusing part. Julia says, "We have to be careful because there is a rail replacement, so we are getting off at Westbridge." If rail replacement is the confusing part, just skip it in your head. Hear it as, "We have to be careful because something, so we are getting off at Westbridge." Do you see? You still understand the main action. You are still getting off at Westbridge. You do not need to know exactly what a rail replacement is to follow the instruction. This is the first secret to fluency. You do not need to understand every word. You just need to understand enough to know what is happening. Now, let's practice this a little bit more with a different scenario. We are going to move from the train station to a coffee shop. This is a very common place where listening can be difficult because coffee shops are noisy, the music is playing, the coffee machine is steaming, and the baristas often speak quickly or use slang. In this story, we have a character named Daniel. Daniel is at a popular coffee shop in London. He is feeling a bit nervous because his English is good, but he struggles when people speak fast. He goes up to the counter to order. The barista, a friendly young woman named Sophie, looks at him and smiles. She asks, "Hi there, what can I get for you today? Are you after the usual, or do you want to try our new seasonal blend which has notes of hazelnut and chocolate?" Daniel hears, "Hi there, what can I get for you?" That is easy, but then she speaks very quickly. "Are you after the usual?" Daniel thinks, "Usual? I have never been here before. Why does she think I have a usual? Does he look like a regular?" He gets confused. And then he hears, "Or do you want to try our new seasonal blend?" Okay, seasonal blend. That sounds like a type of coffee. But then she says, "Which has notes of hazelnut and chocolate?" Notes? Daniel is a musician. He thinks about musical notes. Why are there musical notes in the coffee? His brain starts to spin. He misses the rest of what she says because he is thinking about musical notes and hazelnuts. He freezes. He doesn't know what to say. He just stands there looking awkward. Now, let's hit the pause button and fix this for Daniel. Daniel fell into the trap of focusing on specific words that he didn't understand in the way he expected. Notes, in the context of coffee, does not mean music. It means flavors or hints of taste. But even if Daniel didn't know that, he didn't need to panic. He could have just ignored the word notes. He could have heard, "Try our new seasonal blend, which has something of hazelnut and chocolate." He knows hazelnut and chocolate are food items. He can guess that the coffee tastes like them. He doesn't need the word notes to understand that she is offering him a coffee with a specific flavor. Also, regarding the usual, he could have just understood that she asked, "Do you want A or B?" If he doesn't want A, he can just say B. He could have simply smiled and said, "I'll try the seasonal blend, please." That would have been a perfect, natural response. He didn't need to understand why she asked about the usual, and he didn't need to translate the word notes. He just needed to catch the general offer. This is the skill we are building. It is the skill of filtering. Your brain has a filter. Right now, your filter might be set to alert me if I don't understand a word. We need to change that setting to let the unknown words pass through, just catch the main idea. It is like standing in a river. If you try to catch every single drop of water, you will get exhausted and you will probably drown. But if you just let the water flow around you while you stand on the solid rocks, you will be fine. The words you know are the rocks. The words you don't know are just the water flowing past. You are safe on the rocks. You are stable. Let's try a more complex listening challenge now. We are going to listen to a conversation between two colleagues, Sarah and Liam. They are discussing a project at work. Work conversations can be tricky because they use specific jargon or words related to a job. Sarah is explaining a problem to Liam. She says, "Look, Liam, the main issue with the Q3 report is that the data from the marketing team is inconsistent. We really need to reconcile the figures before the board meeting on Friday. Otherwise, we are going to look completely unprepared." Now, imagine you are Liam. You are listening. Main issue. Okay. Q3 report. That means third quarter of the year. Probably a document. Data from marketing. Okay. Numbers or information. But then comes the word inconsistent. You might not know this word. Does it mean the data is honest? Does it mean it is constant? Does it mean it is bad? If you stop to think about inconsistent, you will miss the next crucial part. We really need to reconcile the figures. Reconcile? That is another hard word. Now you have two difficult words in a row. Inconsistent and reconcile. The panic starts to rise. But wait, let's look at the situation. Sarah is talking about a problem and an issue, so we know something is wrong. She says the data is inconsistent. If you don't know the word, look at her tone. She is serious. She is worried. Inconsistent probably means the data is not good, not matching, or messy. Then she says they need to reconcile the figures. Reconcile sounds like fixing something. They need to fix the numbers. Why? Because of the board meeting on Friday. And if they don't, they will look unprepared. So even if you don't know the exact definitions of inconsistent and reconcile, you understand the message. The message is, the numbers are wrong or messy. We must fix them by Friday to look good at the meeting. You have completely understood the task without knowing every word. You could reply, "Okay, so I should help you fix the numbers?" And Sarah would say, "Yes, exactly. See? You succeeded. Now, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and visualize yourself in these situations. You are Mark at the train station. You are Daniel at the coffee shop. You are Liam in the office. Feel the panic rising in your chest when you hear that strange word. Now, take a deep breath. Visualize that word floating away like a cloud in the sky. It is there, but it is not blocking your view. You can see the rest of the sky. You can hear the rest of the conversation. Say to yourself, "It is okay. I don't need that word." This mental practice is just as important as the listening practice. You are training your emotions as much as your ears. Let's continue with another story. This time, we are going to a social setting, a party. Parties are actually one of the hardest places for listening because people speak quietly. They laugh, they tell jokes, and the vocabulary is often very casual. We have a young man named Thomas. He is at a house party. He doesn't know many people there. He starts talking to a woman named Emily. Emily is very friendly and chatty. She says to Thomas, "Oh, you're a vegetarian. That's awesome. My brother is actually vegan, but he used to be a massive carnivore. It's such a huge turnaround for him, especially considering he owns a steakhouse." Thomas feels good at first because he understands vegetarian. He knows that word. But then Emily says vegan. Thomas knows this word too. It's like a strict vegetarian. Then she says massive carnivore. Thomas stops. Carnivore? Is that an animal? Like a dinosaur? Or a monster? He thinks of a T-Rex. Why is her brother a dinosaur? Then she says, turn around. That must mean turning around, like physically moving your body. Then she says, steakhouse. Okay, he knows that is a restaurant that sells meat. Thomas is now very confused. Her brother is a vegan dinosaur who turns around and owns a restaurant. It makes no sense. He smiles awkwardly and nods, hoping she will change the subject. He misses the chance to make a connection because he got stuck on carnivore. If Thomas had stayed calm, he could have used the context. Vegan means no meat. Used to be means the past. Carnivore is probably related to eating meat, just like the opposite of vegan. So her brother used to eat a lot of meat. Then, turnaround in a social context, not a physical one, means a change in behavior or opinion. So, he changed his behavior. And steakhouse confirms the meat theme. The story is simply, my brother used to eat a lot of meat, even owned a meat restaurant, but now he is vegan. It is a big change. If Thomas had just let go of the T-Rex image, he could have said, wow, that is a big change. Why did he decide to do that? That would have been a great conversation, but instead, he stayed silent. This shows us another important strategy. Use the words you do know to explain the words you don't know. Thomas knew vegan. He knew steakhouse. He could have figured out that carnivore was somewhere in the middle. You don't need a dictionary in your brain every second. You can use the clues around the difficult word. Think of yourself as a detective. You are looking for clues. The difficult word is the suspect, but the clues are the other words in the sentence. The context is the motive. Put them together, and you can solve the mystery without asking for help. We are going to shift gears slightly now and talk about what to do when you miss a whole phrase, not just a word. This often happens when people link words together in English. We speak in connected speech. Do you want to? Sounds like Juana. I am going to sounds like imunna. If you are listening for the separate words I am going you to, you will not hear them. You will hear a strange, long sound. Let's practice this with a character named Rachel. Rachel is talking to her neighbor, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins is an older man who mumbles a little bit. He says, I was gonna go to the store. Juana come with? Rachel hears, I was gonna go. Juana. She thinks, I was gonna go? What does gonna mean? Juana? Is that a name? She feels lost. Now let's break it down with our calm detective brain. Rachel is standing in the hallway with Mr. Jenkins. They are neighbors. He is probably talking about daily life. I was gonna. Think about common phrases. Going to is very common. Gonna is just the fast pronunciation of going to. So he is going somewhere. Go to the store. Okay, that makes sense. He is going shopping. Do you wanna come with? Ju sounds like do you. Wanna sounds like want to. Do you want to come with? He is inviting her. So the sentence is, I was going to go to the store. Do you want to come with? Rachel could have guessed this just by the situation. Her neighbor is going out. It is polite to ask. Even if she only heard store and come, she could guess the rest. She could reply, "Sure, I'd love to. What are you getting?" Or, "No thanks, I'm busy." Both replies fit, even if she wasn't 100% sure of the question. In fact, guessing the question and replying is a great way to check if you understood. If you reply with the wrong thing, the person will correct you. For example, if Rachel thought he said, "Come with me to the kitchen," she might say, "Okay." If he meant the store, he would say, "No, I mean the shop, outside." It is okay to be wrong. It is better to guess and be wrong than to say nothing at all. Let's do another practice with connected speech. We are in a university setting. A professor is speaking to a student named Greg. The professor is talking about an essay. He says, "You gotta make sure you don't leave it to the last minute, otherwise you're gonna be stressed out." Greg hears, "You gotta," last minute, otherwise you're gonna, stressed out. He understands last minute and stressed. He understands the general warning, but "you gotta" and "you're gonna" are just fast speech. You gotta is you have got to, or you have to. It means you must. You're gonna is you are going to. So the professor is saying, you must make sure you don't leave it to the last minute, otherwise you are going to be stressed out. Greg gets the message. Do your work early. Even if he missed gotta and gonna, he understood the warning. He could just say, "Okay, I'll start today." He doesn't need to analyze the grammar of gotta. He just needs to react to the content. I want to take a moment here to talk about the emotional side of this again, because it is so important. The fear of missing something is often worse than actually missing something. We build it up in our heads. We think, if I don't understand this, I will fail. I will look stupid. People will laugh at me. But the truth is, native speakers miss things all the time. Have you ever seen two native speakers talking? Sorry, what? I didn't catch that. What did you say? They say these things constantly. It is normal. It is human. So give yourself permission to not understand everything. Give yourself permission to guess. Give yourself permission to make a mistake. When you are kind to yourself, your brain relaxes. When your brain relaxes, it actually learns better and listens better. A stressed brain is a closed brain. A relaxed brain is an open brain. Let's meet a new character, Fiona. Fiona is very hard on herself. She is watching a movie in English without subtitles. She understands the plot, but she misses some jokes. She gets angry with herself. I should know that word, she thinks. She stops enjoying the movie. She focuses on her failure. This is the wrong approach. If Fiona were to relax, she would realize she understood the whole story. She knew who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. She knew how it ended. That is a success. The jokes were just extra flavoring. If you are eating a delicious cake and you don't taste one tiny ingredient, like a pinch of cinnamon, you still ate the cake. You still enjoyed it. You don't need to analyze the cake to enjoy it. Just consume the English. Enjoy the story. Enjoy the connection. Let the details go if you have to. We are going to move into part 2 now, where we will look at specific strategies for recovering your focus when you do drift off. Even with all this practice, there will be times when your mind just wanders. You are human. You might think about dinner, or your job, or you might just get tired. Suddenly, You realize you have been listening to someone for 30 seconds, but you haven't heard a word. How do you get back into the conversation? How do you recover without looking like you were daydreaming? This is a very useful skill, and it is simpler than you think. Imagine you are sitting in a park. You are listening to your friend Oliver tell you about his holiday. He is talking about a boat trip. He says, and the waves were getting really high, and the captain was shouting to pull the sails down, and I was trying to hold on to the rail. But then, suddenly, the engine stopped. Suddenly, you realize you missed the beginning of this story. You were looking at a dog in the park. You hear, engine stopped. You panic. What engine? What boat? Where were they going? Instead of saying, I wasn't listening, tell me again. Which can be rude. You can use a recovery phrase. You can ask a specific question that shows you are interested and helps you catch up. You could say, wow, the engine stopped? What happened after that? Oliver will then explain the result. Well, we drifted for a while, but then we fixed it. By asking about the last thing you heard, you jump back into the conversation. You show you care about the story. You don't have to admit you missed the first part. Or you can use a phrase like, sorry, just to make sure I understand. You said the engine stopped right in the middle of the storm. You are guessing the context based on waves and high. Even if you are wrong, Oliver will correct you. No, not a storm, just windy. Now you are back on track. The key is to act confident. Even if you are lost inside, act like you are following on the outside. Use your face. Look interested. Nod. Then, use one of these recovery questions. So, what did you do then? Is the magic question. It works in almost any situation. It forces the speaker to move forward, and you can just ride along with them. Let's practice this with a business scenario. You are in a meeting. Your boss, a woman named Mrs. Higgins, is giving a presentation. She is pointing at a chart. She says, so as you can see, the projection for Q4 is looking very promising, provided that we can secure the partnership with the Asian markets. You were writing an email on your phone. You look up. You hear Asian markets. You have no idea what the chart shows. You don't know what Q4 means in this context. What do? You can't say, I was on my phone, sorry. You need a smooth recovery. You can say, Mrs. Higgins, that is an interesting point about the Asian markets. How does that tie in with our current sales figures? This is a brilliant recovery. You are asking a smart-sounding question that doesn't require you to know what she said before. She will explain the connection. Well, currently our sales are low, but the Asian market could boost them. Now you are caught up. You saved your reputation. Another recovery strategy is to echo the last few words. This is called echoing. When someone finishes a sentence and you didn't quite catch it, or you want to show you are listening, just repeat the last 2 or 3 words with a questioning tone. For example, your friend says, I'm thinking of buying a new car, maybe a hybrid or an electric one. You didn't hear hybrid. You just say, an electric one? Or maybe an electric one. Your friend hears this as interest and will elaborate. Yeah, electric cars are cheaper to run. Now you have more information, and you didn't have to say, I didn't hear you. It is a very subtle and polite way to keep the conversation going. Let's try this echoing technique with a character named Sam. Sam is talking to his brother about a video game. His brother says, I finally beat the boss on level 10, but I lost all my health potions. Sam wasn't really listening. He just catches the end of the sentence. He says, "Lost your health potions?" His brother says, "Yeah, it was crazy. I had to fight him with just a sword." Now Sam knows there was a boss fight, a battle, and his brother won but ran out of items. Sam is back in the conversation. It was that simple. He didn't need to know about level 10 or the specific details of the fight. He just needed a hook to jump back in. We also need to talk about what to do when the other person realizes you didn't understand. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, you have a blank look on your face. The person stops and says, "Did you understand that?" Or, "Do you know what I mean?" This is a critical moment. Do not lie. Do not say, "Yes, yes, of course," if you don't understand. This will only cause problems later. But also, do not say, "No, I understand nothing. Your English is too fast." That is discouraging for them and embarrassing for you. The middle ground is the best place. You can say, "I understood most of it, but could you explain the last part again?" Or, "I think I get the main idea, but I missed one detail. Could you repeat that?" This shows that you were listening, you are trying, and you just need a little help. Most people will be very happy to repeat themselves. Let's look at an example with a student named Priya. She is talking to her homestay host, Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green is explaining how to use the washing machine. It is an old machine. She says, "You have to turn the dial to delicates, and then pull the red knob out, but make sure you don't put too much powder in the tray, or it will leak." Priya is confused by the dial and the knob. She looks confused. Mrs. Green asks, "Is that clear?" Priya could say, "No, I don't know what a dial is." But Mrs. Green might feel bad. Instead, Priya says, "I understand about the powder, but could you show me the knob again?" Mrs. Green points. "This red one here." "Oh, I see. The red one," says Priya. "Thank you." Priya focused on what she did understand, the powder, and asked for clarification on the small part she missed. This is a confident, fluent response. Another useful phrase is, "Could you say that in a different way?" Sometimes the problem isn't the volume or the speed, but the specific words used. If someone uses an idiom or a very formal word, you can ask them to rephrase it. For example, a colleague says, "We need to bite the bullet and cancel the project." You don't know, bite the bullet. You can ask, "Could you say that in a different way?" Your colleague will say, "We need to be brave and cancel it." Now you understand. It is perfectly acceptable to ask for a simpler explanation. It is better than pretending and making a mistake later. Now, let's put this all together in a long, final practice scenario. This scenario involves a complex situation with multiple people talking. We are at a dinner party. There are 4 people: the host, David, and his guests, Anna, Ben, and Chloe. You are a guest too. You are sitting next to Ben. The conversation is fast, there is laughter, and people are interrupting each other. This is the ultimate test. David starts by saying, "So, I was telling Anna about my trip to Scotland. We drove up to Loch Ness, but the fog was so thick you could cut it with a knife." Everyone laughs. You miss the joke about "cut it with a knife" because you are looking at your food. You just hear thick. You hear Chloe say, "Did you see the monster?" You hear David say, "No, but we stayed in this creepy hotel that used to be a castle." You are interested in the castle. You want to know more. Ben leans over to you and says, "David always exaggerates about these trips. He probably just stayed in a bed and breakfast." You are not sure what exaggerates means. Is that good or bad? Ben is smiling, but his tone is teasing. You guess it means David makes things sound bigger than they are. You want to agree with Ben to be polite. You use a safe phrase. You say, "Really? A castle?" Ben says, "Yeah, he's full of it." You don't know, full of it. You decide to let it go. You focus back on David. David is saying, "And the landlord, this big guy with a red beard, told us this ghost story about a soldier who walks the halls at midnight." Now you are hooked. A ghost story. You understand the main point. David continues, "He said that if you hear the footsteps, you have to lock the door. Otherwise, the room gets freezing cold." You miss "otherwise." You hear "lock the door," and room gets freezing cold. You understand the warning. Lock the door or get cold. Suddenly, Chloe interrupts. "Oh, stop it, David. You're scaring me." David laughs. "I'm serious. And Ben, you remember when we went to that hotel in Paris and the lift broke down?" Ben laughs. "Don't remind me. We had to walk up 10 flights of stairs with our luggage." You missed lift. You wonder, a lift? Like an airplane lift? But you hear, walk up 10 flights of stairs. So the lift must be the thing that goes up and down. An elevator. You figure it out from context. You are doing great. You haven't stopped once. You missed exaggerates, full of it, otherwise, and lift. But you know exactly what is happening. They are talking about travel, scary hotels, ghosts, and stairs. You are part of the group. At the end of the story, David looks at you and asks, "Have you ever stayed in a haunted hotel?" This is your moment. You need to answer. You could panic and say, "I don't know." But you use your training. You focus on the question. Haunted hotel. A hotel with ghosts. You can answer this. You say, "No, never. But once, I stayed in an old house, and the noises at night were very scary." David nods. "Exactly. Like creaking floorboards?" You hear creaking floorboards. You don't know creaking. You guess it means a sound. You say, "Yes, sounds like that." The conversation moves on. You succeeded. You participated in a fast, native-level conversation without understanding every single word. You recovered when you zoned out. You guessed meanings from context. You used safe phrases. This is fluency in action. As we move towards the end of our lesson today, I want you to remember that listening is an active process, but it shouldn't be a stressful one. It is like riding a bicycle. When you first learn, you look at your feet, you wobble, you worry about every rock. But eventually, you just look at the road ahead. You trust your balance. You don't even think about the pedaling. English listening is the same. Right now, you are thinking about the pedaling. You are worrying about the words. But one day, you will just look at the road. You will understand the feeling, the message, the meaning. The words will just be the vehicle that carries the message. So, my advice to you this week is simple. Go out and listen to something. Watch a video, listen to a podcast, talk to a friend. And when you miss a word, and you will, I want you to smile. I want you to take a mental step back and say, "That's okay. I don't need that word." Keep listening. Stay with the flow. If you get completely lost, use one of our recovery phrases. "So, what happened next?" Or, "Could you say that again?" Be kind to yourself. Be patient. Fluency is not about being perfect. It is about communicating. It is about connecting with other people. And you cannot connect if you are in a panic. You can only connect when you are calm, present, and open to the conversation. I hope this practice has helped you feel more confident. I hope you realize that missing something is not a failure. It is just a part of the process. You have the tools now to handle it. You have the strategies to recover. You know how to use context. You know how to ask for help. So, go out there and keep listening without panic. You are doing better than you think. Thank you so much for listening to English in Fluency. I am Alex, and I will see you in the next lesson. Keep practicing, and remember, every word you catch is a victory, and every word you miss is just an opportunity to keep going. Take care. Welcome back to English in Fluency. I am Alex, and this is part 2 of our special masterclass on how to recover when you miss something in English. In the first part, we talked a lot about the mindset of not panicking and how to let words flow past you like water. We practiced that with stories about Mark and Julia at the train station, Daniel at the coffee shop, and others. Now, in this second part, we are going to go deeper. We are going to look at specific techniques that detectives and spies use to listen. Sounds interesting, right? We are going to learn how to use logic listening and predictive listening. These are fancy terms, but the ideas are very simple. Logic listening means using your brain to figure out what must be true, even if you didn't hear it. Predictive listening means guessing what someone is going to say before they even finish their sentence. When you combine these two, you become a super listener. Let's start with logical listening. This is when you use the situation and your general knowledge to fill in the blanks. Think about it. If you walk into a classroom and the teacher is standing at the front holding a book, and the students are sitting in chairs with notebooks open, you don't need to speak the language to know what is happening. It is a class. If the teacher points to a student, you know she is asking a question. If the student stands up, you know he is answering. This is logic. We do this automatically in our own language, but we often stop doing it in English because we are too focused on the sounds. We need to switch that logic back on. Let's meet a character named Simon. Simon is on an airplane. He is sitting next to a woman named Elena. The plane lands. The captain turns on the microphone and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop and the seatbelt sign has been turned off." Simon understands seatbelt sign and turned off, but he misses come to a complete stop. He sees the plane is still moving a little bit on the runway. He uses logic. The captain said to wait. The plane is moving. Therefore, he must wait until the plane stops. He doesn't need to understand every word of the announcement to know the right action. Later, the flight attendant walks down the aisle checking things. Elena asks Simon, "Do you think we have enough time to make our connection?" Simon doesn't know the word connection. He looks at Elena. She is looking at her watch. She looks worried. They are on a plane that just landed. Why would someone look at their watch and worry? They probably have another flight to catch. Simon guesses that connection means the next flight. He replies, "I hope so. Our next flight leaves in an hour." Elena nods. "Yes, that's the connection." Simon confirmed his guess by using context and logic. He solved the mystery of connection without a dictionary. This is powerful because it frees you. You don't need the translation for connection to answer the question. You just need to understand the situation. Now, let's try a more difficult example of logic listening. We are at a doctor's office. A patient named Lucas is talking to the doctor. The doctor says, "I'm going to prescribe you this antibiotic, but you need to finish the entire course, even if you start to feel better. Otherwise, the infection might return." Lucas understands finish and feel better. He misses prescribe, antibiotic, and infection. He hears, "I'm going to something you this something." But you need to finish the entire something, even if you start to feel better. Otherwise, the something might return. He is at a doctor's office. He is sick. The doctor is giving him something. It must be medicine. He has to finish it. If he doesn't, the sickness comes back. That is all Lucas needs to know. He can ask the pharmacist later what the specific medicine is. For the conversation with the doctor, he just needs to agree. "Okay, I will make sure to finish it." The doctor is happy. The communication is successful. Let's move on to predictive listening. This is a fun one. English, like every language, has patterns. We use the same phrases in the same situations over and over again. If you can learn these patterns, you can predict what the other person is going to say. For example, if someone says, "I'm sorry," but what usually comes next? Bad news, right? "I'm sorry, but I can't come." "I'm sorry, but I lost your book." If someone says, on the other hand, they are going to give you a different opinion. If someone asks, "Would you mind?" they are asking you to do something. If you can recognize these starters, you can prepare your brain for the type of information that is coming. Let's practice predictive listening with a story about a job interview. The interviewer is named Mr. Stone. The candidate is named Sarah. Mr. Stone asks, "Tell me about a time you had a difficult problem to solve." Sarah starts her answer. She says, "Well, at my last job, we had a situation where—" You can predict that she is going to describe the problem. She continues, "Our biggest client threatened to leave." You think, "Okay, that is the problem. Now, listen for the solution." Predictive listening tells you that after the problem, she will talk about what she did. She says, "So, I organized a meeting with them to understand their concerns." Yes, she is solving it. Then, you predict the result. And in the end, they renewed their contract for another 2 years. By predicting the structure of the story, problem, action, result, you can follow along easily even if you miss some details. You know that after "in the end," it must be a happy ending or a lesson learned. Let's try another common pattern. Invitations. If someone says, "Hey, are you free on Saturday night?" you can predict that an invitation is coming. If you want to accept, you can prepare your yes answer. If you want to decline, you can prepare your no answer. Your friend says, "We are going to the cinema. Do you want to come?" You catch cinema and come. You know you want to go. You don't need to hear "we are going to" perfectly. You predicted the offer. You can say, "Yes, that sounds fun." This speeds up your reaction time. You don't have to translate the whole sentence in your head before answering. You hear the pattern, and you respond. Now, let's combine logic and predictive listening in a busy, noisy scenario. We are at a sporting event, a football match, or soccer, depending on where you are from. Two friends, Mike and Leo, are shouting over the noise of the crowd. The referee blows a whistle. Mike shouts, "What happened? Was that a penalty?" Leo shouts back, "No, he blew the whistle for a foul outside the box." Mike understands penalty and foul. He is looking at the screen. He sees the referee is pointing outside the big area on the field. Logic tells him it is not a penalty because a penalty is inside the box. He confirms what he saw with what he heard. Even though he didn't hear outside the box clearly, he saw the referee's hand signal and he knows the rules. He shouts, "Oh, okay. So, a free kick then?" Leo nods. "Yeah, a free kick." Mike used his eyes and his logic to support his ears. This is crucial. When listening is hard, look around you. Gestures, facial expressions, and the physical environment are all part of the message. They are free clues. We often make the mistake of closing our eyes when we listen, thinking it helps us concentrate. But actually, opening your eyes and looking at the speaker is better. You can see their lips moving. You can see if they are smiling or frowning. This is called lip reading, combined with listening. Even if you are not an expert lip reader, seeing the shape of the mouth helps. For example, the sound B looks different from P or M. If you hear a word that sounds like map, but you see the person's lips close tightly at the end, it might be map or mob or mop. But if they look like they are smiling, it's probably a map. If they look like they are blowing out a candle, it's mop. Visuals are powerful tools to recover meaning when the audio is unclear. Let's try this visual listening with a story about cooking. A grandmother is teaching her grandson, named Toby, how to make pasta. The kitchen is noisy. She says, "Now, you need to chop the onions finely and then saute them in the pan until they are translucent." Toby doesn't hear finely or saute or translucent, but he watches her. She is chopping motion very fast and small. He guesses finely means small pieces. She puts oil in the pan and puts the onions in. She moves them around with a spoon. He guesses saute means fry or cook in oil. Then she points to the onions, and they look clear, not white. He guesses translucent means clear. Toby learns how to cook just by watching and listening to the rhythm of her voice, even though he missed the difficult vocabulary words. If he had just listened with his eyes closed, he would be lost. I want to take a moment to talk about the rhythm of English. English is a stress-timed language. This means that some words in a sentence are stressed, said louder and longer, and some words are weak, said very quietly and quickly. The content words, like nouns, verbs, and adjectives, are usually stressed. The grammar words, like articles, prepositions, and helping verbs, are usually weak. For example, I am going to the market to buy some bread. You hear going, market, buy, bread. I am, to, some are weak. When you are recovering from a missed word, focus on the stressed words. They carry the most important meaning. If you miss a weak word like to or for, it usually doesn't change the meaning much. You can guess it. Let's practice identifying stressed words. Imagine you are listening to the news. The newsreader says, "The president will travel to Europe tomorrow to meet with leaders." The stressed words are president, travel, Europe, tomorrow, meet, leaders. If you just heard those words, president, travel, Europe, tomorrow, meet leaders, you understand the whole story. You don't need to hear will, to, with. This is a great shortcut for B1 learners. Train your ears to catch the loud, clear words. Let the quiet, small words be. If you focus too much on the small words, you might miss the next big word. It is like photography. Focus on the subject. Blur the background. The big words are the subject. The small words are the background. Here is a scenario to practice stress-timed listening. A manager is talking to his team. He says, We need to increase sales by the end of the quarter, so everyone must work harder. The stressed words are need, increase, sales, end, quarter, everyone, work, harder. You catch increase sales, end quarter, work harder. That is the message. Work more to sell more by the deadline. Simple. If you missed by the or so, it doesn't matter. You can still do your job. Now, let's talk about what to do when you are listening to a recording, like a podcast or an exercise in this video, and you can't ask the person to repeat. You can't see their face. You are just listening. This is the hardest situation. When this happens and you get lost, do not go back and restart immediately. That is a bad habit. If you restart every time you miss a word, you will never learn to handle continuous speech. Instead, keep going. Listen to the end. Then, go back and listen to the specific part you missed. Try to figure it out. Then, listen to the whole thing again. This teaches your brain that the meaning is continuous, not just a collection of separate words. Let's do a simulation. I am going to tell you a short story about a man named Arthur who loses his keys. I will speak normally. Listen for the main ideas. Arthur was running late for work. He rushed to the door and patted his pockets, but his keys were gone. He remembered he had them in the kitchen when he made coffee. He ran back to the kitchen and found them sitting next to the toaster. He grabbed them and ran out the door, just in time to see the bus driving away. Okay. Now, imagine you missed patted his pockets, and you missed toaster. Did you understand the story? Arthur was late. He couldn't find his keys. He looked in the kitchen. He found them. He ran out. He missed the bus. You got the full story. Patted his pockets just means he checked his pockets with his hands. Toaster is just where the keys were. If you stop and stress about toaster, you miss the bus. So, in this exercise, we ignore toaster. We focus on the sequence of events: lost keys, found keys, missed bus. This is narrative listening. Who did what and when? This skill is vital for exams like the Cambridge B1 preliminary or the IELTS. In those exams, you listen to a recording once. You cannot pause. If you miss an answer, you must move on to the next question immediately. If you stay on question 3 thinking about the answer, you will miss question 4, 5, and 6. You have to learn to cut your losses. In the exam, if you didn't hear the answer, guess and move forward. In real life, if you didn't hear the word, guess and keep listening. The principle is the same. Keep the flow. Let's imagine you are taking a listening test. You hear a conversation between a student and a librarian. The librarian says, "If you want to take out those books, you need to bring your student ID card to the desk." The question on your paper asks, what does the student need? You hear, take out books, bring, student ID card, desk. You miss if you want to. You write, student ID card. You are correct. You didn't need the if clause. You just needed the key object. This is how you pass tests. You hunt for the information you need. You filter out the rest. You are a gold digger in a river of words. You are looking for the gold nuggets, the answers, not the sand, the grammar words. We should also discuss accent. Sometimes you understand your teacher, but you don't understand a person from a different country. This is normal. Accents change the sounds of letters. An American might say schedule as schedule. A British person might say schedule. An Australian might say no as noi. The only way to get used to this is to listen to many different accents. But when you are surprised by an accent, Use your logic again. If you are at a train station in London and someone says, "Which platform is the train for Birmingham?" But it sounds like, "Which platform is the train for Birmingham?" Look at the signs. Use the environment. If you hear Birmingham, look for that word on the board. Find the number. Point. You don't need to copy the accent. You just need to recognize the key words. Let's practice with a Scottish accent, which can be tricky for some. A man named Hamish is talking. "Aye, it's a bonny day, but the wind is a bit cold." You hear bonny day and wind is cold. Logic tells you he is talking about the weather. Bonny probably means good or nice. Aye means yes. You can reply, "Yes, it is very nice." You don't have to say bonny. You don't have to use his accent. You just have to understand the sentiment. The sentiment is positive about the day, negative about the wind. Finally, in this part, I want to talk about confidence. You know the logic. You know the prediction. You know how to focus on stressed words. But if you don't believe you can do it, you won't. Listening anxiety is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think, "I won't understand," your brain stops trying. If you think, "I will catch the important parts," your brain focuses. So, before you start any listening task, give yourself a pep talk. Say, "I am a good listener. I understand enough. I can handle this." It sounds silly, but it works. It primes your brain for success. We are going to do a role play now in your mind. Imagine you are at a conference. You are nervous. You tell yourself, "Okay, I am going to listen for the topic. I don't need every word." The speaker starts. "Good morning, everyone. Today I want to discuss the future of renewable energy." You catch future renewable energy. You are on track. He continues, "Specifically, how solar power can be integrated into our homes more efficiently." You miss integrated and efficiently. You stay calm. You heard solar power and homes. You guess he is talking about putting solar panels on houses. He shows a picture of a roof. You were right. You feel a surge of confidence. Your brain releases dopamine, which helps you focus even more. You win. So, to recap part 2. Use logic to guess meaning from the situation. Use prediction to guess what comes next, based on patterns. Focus on stressed words and let the weak words go. Use visual clues like gestures and lip reading. And most importantly, believe in yourself. You have a brain that is designed to make sense of the world. Trust it. In the next part, we will put everything together with some very advanced practice exercises. But for now, take a break. Let these ideas sink in. You are building a new way of listening. It takes time, but you are making progress. I will see you in part 3. Hello again, and welcome to the final part of our English in Fluency Masterclass on recovering your listening. I am Alex. We have covered a lot of ground together. In part 1, we learned to stop panicking and let unknown words flow past us. In part 2, we learned to use logic, prediction, and visual clues to guess meaning. Now, in part 3, we are going to tackle the most advanced skill of all, interactive recovery. This is what you do when you are in the middle of a fast, two-way conversation, and you need to steer the ship back to safety without crashing it. This is about taking control of the conversation when you feel lost. The first tool in your interactive recovery toolkit is the steal and rephrase technique. This is when you hear a phrase you don't know, so you steal the last part of what the person said and ask them to explain it using different words. It is very polite and very effective. Let's say you are talking to a colleague named Tom. Tom says, "I'm really swamped with work this week. I've got a backlog of reports." You don't know swamped, and you don't know backlog. You feel the panic rising. But instead of freezing, you use steal and rephrase. You say, "You have a backlog of reports?" Tom hears this and thinks, maybe he doesn't know that word. So he says, "Yeah, a backlog," meaning I have a lot of old reports that I haven't finished yet. Now you know. You stole the word backlog, and he rephrased it. You can then do the same with swamped. And you are swamped? Does that mean busy? Tom says, exactly, incredibly busy. You saved the conversation and learned 2 new words in the process. The second tool is the check the timeline technique. Often we get lost because we don't know if someone is talking about the past, present, or future. This changes the meaning of everything. If you are lost, simply ask about the time. Are you talking about last week or next week? Is this happening now or later? This forces the person to clarify the context, which usually helps you understand the rest. For example, your friend says, "I'm going to put the house on the market." You are confused. Is she doing it now? Did she do it? You ask, "Oh, have you decided to sell it now?" She says, "Yes, we are listing it tomorrow." Now you are caught up. It is a future action. Let's practice these interactive skills with a scenario involving a landlord and a tenant. The tenant's name is Chris. The landlord's name is Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson is old and speaks quickly. He calls Chris and says, "Hello, Chris. Just letting you know the boiler is acting up, so the maintenance guy is coming round on Tuesday to take a look at the flue." Chris hears boiler and maintenance guy. Good, but he misses acting up and flue. He is worried. Is the boiler broken? Is there water everywhere? He uses the steal and rephrase technique. The maintenance guy is coming to look at the flue. Mr. Henderson says, "Yeah, the flue, the chimney part outside." Okay, Chris knows what part now. And the boiler is acting up? Is it dangerous? Mr. Henderson says, "Oh no, acting up just means it's not working properly. It's making a noise." Chris relaxes. Okay, so he is coming on Tuesday to fix the noise? Exactly, says Mr. Henderson. Chris successfully managed the call. He didn't pretend to understand. He asked for clarification politely and efficiently. Another powerful interactive tool is the summary strategy. When you have been listening for a long time and you feel like you might have missed some details, stop the person and summarize what you think you heard. So, if I understand correctly, you are saying that. This gives the other person a chance to say, "Yes, that's right," or "No, actually, I meant." This clears up misunderstandings immediately. Imagine you are planning a trip with a travel agent. The agent says, "We will book you on the red-eye flight to save money, and then you can take the shuttle to the hotel, but breakfast is not included." You are thinking about the red-eye. Is that a special airline? You decide to summarize. Okay, so to save money, we take the late flight, the shuttle, and we pay for our own breakfast? The agent says, "Yes, the red-eye is the late-night flight." You guessed right. Summary confirmed your understanding and gave you the definition of red-eye at the same time. Now, let's talk about when you are in a group discussion. This is the hardest situation, because you can't stop the whole group every time you miss a word. In a group, you have to use quiet monitoring. This means you listen more than you speak. You watch the reactions of other people. If everyone laughs, you smile. If everyone looks shocked, you look shocked. You look for the one person in the group who is speaking clearly, or who is explaining things to others, and you focus on them. You can also lean over to the person next to you and whisper, "What are they talking about?" This is a lifesaver in group meetings or parties. Let's visualize a group meeting at work. There are 5 people. They are debating a new logo. They are speaking fast. "I think the blue is too corporate, but the red is too aggressive. What about the font? The kerning is all wrong." You are lost on corporate, aggressive, font, and kerning. That is 4 words. But you look at the screen. You see a blue logo and a red logo. You hear blue and red. You lean to your colleague, Sarah, and whisper, "Do they like the red one?" Sarah whispers back, "No, James thinks it's too angry." Now you know. Aggressive means angry. You are back in the loop. You nod when James speaks about the red one. You participate without needing to understand kerning. We should also discuss emotional recovery. Sometimes we miss something because we are offended, confused, or surprised by the content, not just the words. If someone says something shocking to you, you might stop hearing the English words because your brain is processing the emotion. If this happens, you need to acknowledge the emotion first. "Wow, that is surprising to hear." Once you say that, you reset the conversation. It buys you time. It gives your brain a moment to switch back to English mode. For example, a friend tells you, "I'm moving to Antarctica next month." You are shocked. You stop listening. You say, "Antarctica? Really?" She says, "Yes, I got a job as a researcher there." Now your brain has caught up. You can continue the conversation. Let's do a final, comprehensive practice session. We will imagine a full day in the life of a learner named Fiona. She uses all the skills we have discussed. In the morning, she buys a coffee. The barista says, "Are you staying or taking away?" Fiona misses taking away. She sees a cup in his hand and points to the door. She predicts the question. "Taking away?" she asks. He nods. She succeeds. At work, her boss says, "We need to pivot our strategy due to the market downturn." Fiona misses pivot and downturn. She uses the summary strategy. "So, we need to change our plan because the market is bad?" Boss says, "Exactly." Success. At lunch, she eats with friends. They laugh about a TV show. She missed the joke. She uses quiet monitoring. She smiles and laughs with them. She doesn't worry. She enjoys the vibe. In the evening, she calls customer service. The agent speaks fast. "I can process that refund for you. It will take 5 to 7 business days." Fiona misses business days. She uses steal and rephrase. 5 to 7 business days? Agent says, "Yes, days that are not weekends, so Monday to Friday." Fiona says, "Okay, thank you." Success. Fiona had a perfect day of English listening, not because she understood every word, but because she knew how to recover when she didn't. She stayed calm. She used her tools. She kept the communication flowing. And that is exactly what I want for you. I want to leave you with one final thought. Listening is not a test that you pass or fail. It is a connection that you build. Every time you recover from a missed word, you are building that connection stronger. You are showing the other person that you care about what they are saying. You are showing yourself that you are capable. So, go out into the world and listen fearlessly. Miss a word? Let it go. Miss a phrase? Guess the meaning. Get totally lost? Ask a polite question. You have the power to control the conversation. You are not a passive victim of the language. You are an active participant in the communication. Thank you so much for staying with me through this three-part masterclass here on English in Fluency. I am Alex, and I hope you feel more confident and more prepared to handle any listening situation that comes your way. Remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video, and leave a comment below telling me which strategy you think will be most useful for you. Is it the let it flow mindset, the logic listening, or the interactive recovery tools? Let me know. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep listening without panic. See you next time.